This is the story of 6 Tulsa High School students. 17-year-old Laura Mace, 16-year-old P.J. Martin, 18-year-old Doug Vandenberg, 17-year-old Tracy Borders, 18-year-old Kevin May,
right over there,
15-year-old Emily Ames, and their teacher, Peter Dratz.
You just got 2 of those?
Their backgrounds, their thoughts, their hopes, and their dreams as different as they are from one another. Yet each of them is about to open a door which has been closed for nearly half a century. Together, they will make history.
We're carrying a real big load here because we are representing, each one of us is representing the United States.
Their adventure will take them to a place they've only heard about, a place we can't even imagine. They will be the first American students ever to study at Xiamen University. Their journey will take them to the People's Republic of China.
It's a totally different world.
In 2 short months, they will be living what most of us will not experience in a lifetime. But through their eyes, we will share in what they learn and how they feel about what they see and hear and taste. And through them, we will begin to understand what it's really like here in a world so far from our own.
Whenever you leave what you're used to, you learn more about yourself and other people and how to relate to people.
Project China, the documentary, brought to you by Getty Refining and Marketing Company and your Tulsa area Skelly and Skell gas dealers. By Public Service of Oklahoma. And by Rainbow, your complete baker. Bakers of rainbow bread, cakes, Roman meal, and new rainbow honey grain.
Good evening. Together, we are about to go on a journey which will take us halfway around the world. More than that, it will transport us into another time. For 6 Tulsa High School students, it's a summer adventure that will be the experience of a lifetime. China. But this journey doesn't begin at the airport. It began months ago in the mind of one man and in the halls of a Tulsa high school that's making history of its own. Like a rose among the thorns, Washington High School bloomed amid the turmoil of desegregation. 10 years ago, it was only a dream for H.J. Green. Then, in 1973, the school board designated Washington as a magnet school. It became one of the country's first successful black schools with white students who came by choice rather than by bus. It was the specialized courses, like Chinese, that attracted them. And H.J. Green was its first principal.
I think all of us had dreamed about education with diversified people in a diversified culture.
This is the classroom he's proudest of. This is where the Chinese class meets. It was here that Peter Dratz first envisioned a field trip like none other, and Green was quick with his support.
The very unique opportunity that this group of young people are going to have, and educationally, it can never be matched or even duplicated in any way.
But he says it goes beyond the impact on these students. It's also being felt nationwide.
I think it's been one of the more successful ones because a lot of visitors have come in over the past 8 years, and it has been used in many cities across the nation as a model.
The goal set, they had to find the money to get them there. For months they worked, even going to our troubleshooter for help. Somehow they got it, and the country which seemed so far away on the map was at last a little closer. As they packed for the trip, they couldn't believe their dream was about to come true, but it was. And finally came the time for them to say goodbye to their families. They were all smiles as they began the first few steps of their summer-long adventure. And we were off too, the first television crew ever to see this part of China. Later, we would find out why. Across 13 time zones in 18 hours, and still we were only part of the way there. The first leg of the journey lands us in Hong Kong, the gateway, where East meets West. It remains the epitome of a huge Western city. For our 6 Tulsa students, a little sightseeing is in order, taking a deep breath and inhaling a large dose of the Western world.
That's really nice. Oh, okay.
Great. All around us, sights and sounds distinctly familiar in this foreign land.
Look at this. It's music from Beatles. They're good songs, but this did not happen. That's what it is.
Walking the streets.
At the same time, a preview of the Oriental lifestyle we will soon be immersed in.
There's a jumbo. Where's the jumbo? That one over there? Yeah. Where? Right there. See the one with the pagoda-looking one? Yeah, that one. That looks like khaki? Yeah, that one. Oh.
Like this Cantonese breakfast.
This is a little too big for me. Go ahead. Go ahead and kind of use your hands.
In spite of what we're doing, the experience before us is always in the back of our minds.
It just seemed like a great opportunity.
Who doesn't want to go to China? It's just something that hardly anyone gets to do.
There was never any time when I didn't want to come to China. I would never think of refusing it.
Being able to deal with people, just the experience will help me.
It was just such an opportunity to study and to really learn Chinese.
It's quite an opportunity. It's either that or stay in Oklahoma.
I guess I've had a love affair with China since about 1973 when I opened my first Chinese language book, and it came easy for me.
So that's how we spent our first few hours in the Far East, but it's like icing on a cake. The important part won't start until tomorrow. Writer Houston Smith said, "We live in a fantastic century. We hear on all sides that East and West are meeting. That may prove to be the most important fact of the 20th century. That's why what these youngsters are doing here is important. Tomorrow, the real adventure begins. Tomorrow, we'll be in China." We're used to it by now, loading and loading, getting our tickets checked, and going through customs. But it's a chore tempered by anticipation, and it's the hassle of a free country. Soon, we will take it all more seriously. It flies the flag of the People's Republic of China. It will take us 22 hours to get there aboard this ship. Behind us, the last remnants of the Western world. Hong Kong recedes into the distance. Ahead of us, a world we're not sure of, but we do know what it will mean.
I think it's a great step in, just the friendship between the two countries, really opening up communication lines between China and the U.S.
As the captain gave us a tour of the ship, we had a practical demonstration in the meaning of our journey.
We need to open up relations with the two countries better than they were.
Being able to deal with people, more or less. You have a broader view of how other people live and how other people think.
And as we share our first meal aboard ship, the importance of our journey is never far from our thoughts.
I think doors are opening into China now that have been closed for a long period of time, and these kids are getting in on the ground floor.
The more I see how people haven't seen Americans and how people have stereotypes of Americans, I think it's good to break the stereotypes.
To me, it is important. And I would say that it would be to the Chinese also, making friends.
When we finally steam across the South China Sea, we get our first taste of the tension which will moderate our excitement. All eyes are on the distant peak of Quemoy, a sight never before seen on television. It is occupied by 500,000 Taiwanese troops. The island in the foreground flies the communist flag. It is this military buildup, just a stone's throw from the mainland, which has prevented television crews from making this trip before. It's also prevented cultural exchanges, like the one these students are a part of. But finally, we have arrived.
When we stepped off the boat, I felt like I was stepping back in time 30 years.
This is the world we entered. From Hong Kong, 300 miles the coast to Xiamen. A short distance away, the island of Quemoy, which we saw from the bow of our ship as we steamed past during the early morning hours. Not much further away, Taiwan. Later, we will learn exactly why those two islands make the Chinese apprehensive. That's the world in which we found ourselves when we first stepped off the boat. Our first sight, the stark reality of what life can be in China, a place where the government watches closely. For an hour, we waded through the red tape of customs.
Bureaucracy, I've had some problem with it, but everybody does in China. But China invented the bureaucracy.
Then, at a breakneck pace, our bus sped to the university, giving us a first quick impression of the city and its people. But driving through the gates of the campus was like entering a different world. Our arrival at Xiamen University sets the tone for our stay here. It is a warm greeting. The sign above the door reads, "Welcome to our American friends who have come to our country to study." It is traditional, with hot towels and hot tea. It is subtle fanfare, a chance to rest from our long trip and to hear a welcome from the school's president.
On behalf of the university, I extend warm welcome to you. Since the establishment of the foreign relations, diplomatic relations between our two countries, the cultural exchanges and friendly visits in our two countries have strengthened more and more.
We listen closely, enjoying this international diplomacy, along with a dozen other Americans who are part of our group. It is at this welcoming ceremony we first find other Americans living in Xiamen. She teaches English in the foreign language department of the university. So does her husband. He is Jim Stuffles. They've lived here for almost a year. In that time, they've gained insight into the people and the culture we weren't able to in our short visit. Later, they'll share some of their thoughts with us.
I've always had a desire.
Now, English department is over there.
Everything, I don't know, everything is an impression.
Our first good look at the place we will call home for the next few weeks. For many of us, it just doesn't look like a school.
It's just a city in itself.
Oh, it's beautiful. The campus is like a small city inside of the city of Xiamen.
It just feels different.
I've never seen a school like this. I've never seen a school that is a community.
But we all agree it has everything we want.
A beach. I mean, what more could you ask for? A beach on campus.
But the peaceful tranquility at Xiamen University is not only new for us, but for the Chinese as well. Its beauty is belied by the fact that just a few short years ago, this was not a learning ground, but a battleground.
The school is just recovering from the Cultural Revolution. I mean, it was in shambles only maybe 4 years ago. There were battles right here on campus, gunfights, I think, in fact. And it was just chaos.
But since that time, it has begun to heal from the scars of war. Yet there is still an undercurrent of tension. We felt it when we continually ran into members of the Red Guard around every corner. And when we caught a glimpse of young people training for the military, a sight our camera wasn't supposed to see. And from the very first day, all of us were made aware of the danger the Chinese see as just an island away.
On these Taiwan islands, there are some garrison of the Kuomintang troops. It's not a long distance from here to the islands on the occupation or in the occupation of Taiwan. So we should pay special attention to activities around the beach.
It is now that we begin to realize the element of control that permeates the Chinese way of life. From the pin everyone is expected to wear in public.
The back has a number on it which will identify it as yours. They're just identification badges. You'll find that the students wear them all the time.
To this wall where you can get all the news the government wants you to know. The tension became very real a few weeks later when a bomb ripped apart one of the city buses and the body of a student washed up on this beach. Was it someone who failed in his swim for the free islands in the distance, or just an accidental drowning? We'll never know. But we do know we are in a world unlike the one in which we grew up. This is guest house number 2 here at Xiamen University. That's the dining room where we eat all our meals together. Right over here, the dorm rooms. But it's more than that, it's also the classrooms. Every morning at 8 o'clock sharp, right after breakfast, it's right to work. It's the main reason these students came here, to learn one of the oldest languages in the world, in the place where it began. As with any language study, it's like going back to grade school.
A lot of it's repetitive.
It may seem like a simple way to learn, but don't let it fool you. Most of our students feel as if they're constantly playing catch-up.
I was prepared for more or less an American-paced class, and they go 2 or 3 times faster.
The pace is very quick. We're learning very quickly.
It's a lot more intense, and I think the teachers take it more seriously.
They want you to learn. They're really pushing us.
And it began the very first day. The teachers were eager to get started.
Is that Hua?
What is Hua?
The first day at school, when you're going to school at home, it's just like meeting all your teachers and stuff. But the first day, they wanted to do 3 chapters in each book.
We've been pretty confused some of the time. I did like singing, that was fun. I can't remember the songs, I just remember Piao something.
Whether they are learning by singing or by rote memorization, it continues a step at a time. Our students more or less taking it in stride, sometimes with a sense of humor.
My forte is Spanish.
But more often, with a sense of commitment.
I've never studied so much in my life, I don't think. But it's all going to come out great in the long run.
This has got to be one of the most remarkable temples I've been in.
To communicate, the students must try and master the Chinese language. But to begin to understand the Chinese culture, they must go a step beyond, outside the classroom and into the city.
I thought it was just really fantastic.
The ancient Buddhist temple Nanpa Ta, Today, our students are among the thousands of visitors and pilgrims who come to see it each year. They are instantly spellbound by the almost mystical magic of its spiritual history.
The idea of it being 1,200 years old was just unrealistic to me.
Kevin can't keep his eyes off it.
They're huge. I had never seen so many Buddhas in all my life.
Just 10 years ago, this temple stood only as a monument to the past. The communist government permitted no one to come here and pray. But today, the restrictions have eased, and it has been returned to the people as a house of worship.
Even though religious freedom is no longer prohibited here in China, it's not emphasized either. It's merely condoned. Another sign of the new freedoms here in China.
And to a lesser extent, that religious tolerance extends beyond Buddhism, one of China's oldest spiritual traditions. As we continued the trip around the island, we were all surprised to find a sign of Western religion nestled in the foothills of this foreign land. This Methodist church is 30 years old, but the congregation has been meeting here only since the Cultural Revolution in the 60s. The preacher tells us that every Sunday it is packed full.
Worship. 700 or 800.
More than 700 people gather here every week, people who have not always had the chance to do what our American students take for granted, to pray in their own way, to their own God. So our students find themselves in a land where restriction is the rule, freedom the exception. But the awesome beauty of this city sometimes makes that easy for them to forget. It's the quiet majesty of the ancient buildings. The spirit of this place is best seen at sunrise, when the land awakens and the people begin to stir about.
There's a certain tranquility here that can't exist in a city that's crowded with cars and buses and trucks and things like that.
It's gorgeous. You know, you don't find anything like America that I know of.
Just mountains and mountains, and just all giving an invitation to climb.
The beauty around us is just exotic enough to remind us we're far from home.
We're no longer in America.
It's a totally different world. All the smells combined. That's something that, you know, is really interesting. I don't know, everything is new and different.
In the splendor of the charming countryside, it's easy to forget just how remote this land is, but not for very long.
This is Xiamen's Main Street. Well, they don't really call it that, but it is the heart of their central business district. And if you think it looks busy now, you ought to see it on a Sunday when most of the people have their day off.
People, the way the people stare at us.
It happens everywhere they go.
We went downtown, as you know, and it was just like Pied Piper.
They're just curious. When they want to know about something, they just investigate, and they do a great deal of investigating. They can just look at you all day. Did a lot of it.
When they stop to capture something that catches their eye, our students suddenly become the main attraction.
out? Oh, it didn't come out that well. Oh, well.
But Doug Vandenberg knows that the fascination is not just in the magic of a machine which can produce an instant picture.
Xiamen's only been open to foreigners for a year now after the Cultural Revolution, and they're just not used to anybody who does not have black hair and dark skin.
And they're also not used to a television camera looking back at them. Trying to say something on camera is almost always an invitation for company.
He said he thought it'd be a good idea. Well, in short,
we get them to move back and get out of the way, get out of the picture.
let's kind of move back that way. No?
I think not really.
Okay. All right, let's just walk this way then. Well, they're going to be in the way. The average wage in China, maybe $15 a month. Have been doing. Stay right there. 3, 2, 1. A reporter once asked Mahatma Gandhi what he thought of Western civilization. Y'all move back that way, okay? You got to do it so they move out of the way, don't we? He told him it'd be a good idea. In short, these people don't want to get out of the way, okay?
But you get the feeling that what they're trying to do is get a glimpse of our world. And Doug believes their curiosity goes far beyond what we look like.
I've sat down and talked to some of them, and they're really interested in how I live and what school's like and what my social life is like, because they're not used, it's so different. And I'm learning so much from them, and they're learning, I'm sure, quite a bit from me.
I expected it to be more westernized with some degrees of modernization that just aren't here.
We've seen a lot of things in China we're not used to. Materially, it's still a very poor country. We've seen people doing hours of backbreaking work from sunup to way past sundown. The average wage here in China, maybe $15 a month.
It is a land of unskilled workers toiling mostly by hand, certainly without the convenience of modern technology that our students are used to seeing.
It seems like the people are more on one level. Everything seems to be shared equally.
Everywhere you could see the Chinese selling the fruits of their labor in the streets.
I did enjoy the open markets, but the problem is I'm just not used to everything being so close together.
But the world's most populated country is also one of its poorest. And what that means for the Chinese leaves Tracy Borders with a profound feeling of sadness.
It makes me feel bad. We've been told that there are families who have maybe one room and there are 4 or 5 or a lot more than that, a lot huger number than that, people living there.
But the hope for a better future hinges on education. That's why the people who come to study at this university work as hard in their way as a laborer in the field. It is a total commitment. We learn just how much from Jim Stuffles.
Their biggest complaint about their lives here and about China, in fact, is that their social lives are almost zero. Students cannot marry. If they get married, they're out of school.
But there is plenty of exercise. It's not only encouraged, it is required 6 days a week. You can see it even at the crack of dawn. Some practice the ancient art of Tai Chi, a combined physical workout for the body and meditation of the mind. An exercise our students had a special interest in trying out. 2 days a week, they'd be up by 6 for a lesson. Most of what they saw, though, was pretty familiar. Nevertheless, Kevin was astounded.
I was impressed at how athletic the people are here. They're very good at sports. They play volleyball and they play soccer and they play on bars, and just ordinary college students were competing with our Bart Connors.
We gained a deeper understanding of Chinese athletic ability when we took them on in what we thought was our own game. Our mini-Olympics lacked only gold medals and national anthems. On the other side of the court, Xiamen's intramural champions, the foreign language department, including American teacher Jim Stuffles. A huge crowd of Chinese gathered to watch. We thought we had the strength, a Penn State women's basketball player. We came out ready and then lost the tip-off. And we found out we weren't as good as we thought. Luckily, neither were they. And it was here we learned not only about their athletic skills, but also about something more, about the character of the Chinese people. When we scored, a typical American reaction. But when they scored, nothing. No cheering, no applause, just silence. Although they are competitive in the game, the Chinese think it's impolite to show favoritism toward either team. Nevertheless, we enjoyed it, even though they eventually won by about 15 points.
I keep looking for Coke and French fries and all the junk food that I'm addicted to.
Already a couple of times we've seen the food we've been eating on this trip, all of it authentic Chinese food. So far we haven't seen where it comes from. Here at Xiamen University, this is where it happens, the kitchen. 2 hours before dinner, these two men are already hard at work.
They prepare fresh vegetables daily, all of it. Even the freshly baked bread goes into a giant wok. And there's one item you will find at every meal, even at breakfast. For Kevin, it poses a bit of a problem.
I'm not a real rice eater. You get rice every meal, and you can't put sugar on it.
But the Chinese really have little choice. Because it's such a poor country, they must eat what they can grow. And in this hot climate, that means rice and vegetables, or simply what may be available, like pork, or convenient, like fish for this land surrounded by the sea. So, out of necessity, these foods have become traditional. It is also a Chinese custom not to serve any chilled liquids. They believe that drinking anything cold is bad for you.
I haven't seen an ice cube since, as long as I've been here.
So, when we sit down to a meal, it's more than just a daily activity. It's an adventure.
I'm getting pretty good with the chopsticks. No injuries yet, so.
We don't always know exactly what we're eating, but whatever is on the menu, it always plays to mixed reviews.
Food has really been excellent. We're getting really top quality food here.
I like bits and pieces of it.
I keep telling my taste buds to hurry up and get used to the food.
But our students find themselves thinking a lot about the things they thought they had their fill of back home.
I'm really craving a nice tall glass of iced tea or Coca-Cola.
They keep telling me that we're having steak and baked potatoes, but I haven't found it yet. I think maybe it's below my rice. Otherwise, it's really good.
The food takes a lot of getting used to. I thought that anything would be better than what I have at home because I'm so sick of it, but you really start to miss that.
I'm kind of a fried chicken and potatoes girl, but I do have my Hershey's and my peanut butter, so.
And there's this. There's a way.
The kids were beautiful.
Their faces are like those of beautifully crafted dolls come to life. They are as stunning to look at as the beauty which surrounds them. In many ways, their spirit and innocence captures the essence of children around the world. You see them almost everywhere you look. Because when entire families live in one-room apartments, a crowded street becomes a playground.
But to get a real view of China's children, you've got to see them in the classroom. This is a kindergarten. Everybody in here is under age 6. The first view is one you'll never forget.
The words, a traditional Chinese welcome, but this greeting merely sets the stage for what we are about to see. We watch, captivated. They are acting out a Chinese nursery story. All of us could recall our own awkward attempts at public performances during our own preschool days. But nothing in our memory prepared us for the precision, the almost flawless professionalism of these 4- and 5-year-old children. We are told there is a reason. Entertainment is rare. TV sets are for sale, but no one can afford them. So from a very early age, these youngsters provide the entertainment in the home, performing whenever guests arrive. Nevertheless, Peter found it disturbing.
The frightening thing is that they did seem a bit the program. They were really cute, and yet there was just this air of, gosh, aren't they able to express themselves as individuals at all?
It was a feeling our youngest student, Emily Ames, couldn't shake.
I don't know, they just seemed like, well, I'm not sure. It seemed like they were trying very hard to make them look very unreal. They had all the makeup on and all their clothes were perfect and everything.
In the next moment, our reservations were forgotten as we were requested to respond to their performance. And we did, the only way we knew how. Then the transition was complete. They were children once again. We were invited to join them, singing and dancing to a song of friendship. And they reacted like children everywhere as they received the gifts we brought with us from Tulsa. Our hosts at Xiamen University welcomed us into their world as you would a guest into your own home.
I think the people are wonderful. They're so friendly, and they're so willing to help.
The people have really tried their best to accommodate us, though, and we appreciate that.
It's one of the traits we noticed most. They are kind, considerate, very warm. The longer you are here, the more you feel it.
The most favorable impressions of China have to do with the people, individual people. They're probably the warmest, most accepting people I've ever met anywhere.
But since most of our contact with the Chinese was in the classroom, that's where it touched us the most.
They're really nice people. They want you to learn.
They just seem to really, really care. They're more dedicated in a way. Like that is their life.
Even outside the classroom, the people were always willing to help.
I like how ready the people are to help us, and they're not, if you try to speak to them in Chinese, they're very patient.
They all just really bend over backwards to help you with your Chinese. They just love it when you try to say something in Chinese.
Still, barriers remain.
I wish I would have gotten to know more people better than I do. I really can't say that I know any of the people here yet.
And Jim Stuffle suggested there may be a reason.
China's a very subtle place, and it's hard to say exactly what their attitude is towards it. I'm not convinced that China really wants a lot of foreigners.
Yet knowing them brought us pleasure. And on our last night in Xiamen, we wanted to show them our appreciation. We hosted a banquet in their honor. Banquets are always a special occasion, a tradition we didn't want to miss. As the host, I was expected to greet each guest at the door. Protocol established the seating. On my right, our guest of honor, the dean of the university. And I was expected to make sure the plates at my table were never empty. and there was plenty on the menu. For the Chinese, with food rationed closely, eating is usually serious business. None of the conversation you see at American tables. But a banquet is a different story. The food was plentiful, 8 or 10 courses, everything we could imagine. From fried shrimp to traditional 1,000-year-old duck eggs to things we weren't quite sure of. Banquets are for eating as much as you want, for chit-chat and having fun, with music provided by our guests to make us feel at home. And toasts are always a part of the custom.
So when you can make them happen, make them work, it makes them that much better.
Toasts are so much like the Chinese people, an opportunity to express the warmth and friendship they show in their daily lives. And we couldn't forget the men who worked so hard to ease our transition into a new lifestyle, the cooks. And finally, a tangible expression of our thanks, and for the Chinese, very meaningful. Individually, they refuse to accept gifts. To be singled out like that goes against their concept of a classless society. But in a group, they willingly accepted what we offered. And as they demonstrated so many times, in spite of the language barrier, when it comes from the heart, they understand.
I love you! Hi, Dad. No one ever says hi, Dad. They always say hi.
We've watched them make history. 6 Tulsa high school students, the first Americans ever to study at Xiamen University. The journey which brought them to mainland China. During the past 60 minutes, we've met Doug Vandenberg, Tracy Borders, Kevin May, Laura Mace, Emily Ames, P.J. Martin, and teacher Peter Dratz. We've seen them as tourists, as students struggling with a difficult assignment, and even as teachers themselves, ambassadors from America, giving the Chinese a glimpse into the ways of our world. They have shared with us their impressions, their insight into a place most of us might otherwise not have seen. And it hasn't all been positive.
I don't like the fleas. The fleas really bother me.
Mosquitoes, not being able to drink cold water, that sort of thing.
Probably not having a bicycle to see everything I would like to see. It's hard to walk around everywhere.
With them, we have seen people doing hours of back-breaking labor, building a city by hand. The effects of widespread poverty. The tension brought on by an unseen enemy across the sea. And we've seen 15-year-old children training for war because of it. We found that this is a place where life is carefully planned, and even freedom is controlled.
I think the lack of freedom to just be totally on my own, to go off on my own, or to go off with the kids on our own. Things are pretty well regulated here.
But all our judgments are based on the way we live.
The one thing we cannot do is make comparisons with life in America, because if we compare material things with material things in America, China's going to come out losing. They have made some incredible advances.
In that light, we gain a new understanding of this land, because we have found China's national treasure, its people, warm and gracious and caring, yet somehow naive, almost childlike in their curiosity.
I think that they're really curious about what's going on outside of China. I don't think that they're dissatisfied, but they just want to know more.
While the pictures of China's children continually captured our hearts, we've learned about a culture rich in ancient tradition, much of it born out of necessity.
But more than that, we've seen a very beautiful country, from the oriental beauty of this city beside the sea,
to the serenity of the campus, to the breathtaking beauty of the countryside. and our students are a part of that. What they have done will land them a place in history.
A reporter once asked Mahatma Gandhi what he thought of Western civilization. He answered, it'd be a good idea. In short, the people here in the Far East don't want to live like we do, nor do we want to live like them. Maybe, though, we can learn something from them. That's what 6 Tulsa high school students have been doing here.
I've experienced so much so far that it's impossible to explain to anyone everything you've seen and things that you can only learn by experiencing.
I like the simplicity of the culture. I like, the simplicity of the people. There's so many things, it's really hard to say. Just the daily routine is really special.
People that know me know that I'm very outspoken, and I've kind of, come on, get it. I've kind of quieted down, and I'm watching more of what's going on instead of just breaking out and saying things. And I'm a lot more tolerant, a lot more patient now. And, just in the, first week and a half or so. And I think that's important. By the end of the summer, I'll probably be so mellow that...
I really like being here, and I'm not so homesick right now that I would just think, oh, I just got to get home, I just got to get home, because I wouldn't give up being here, having this experience.
When they return home at the end of the summer, they and we will be much richer for what they've learned here.
You make pictures in your mind of places, and it's just nothing like anything I'd imagined.
Once you've made a journey like this, it is impossible to come home untouched by the experience. And I found myself constantly comparing their lifestyle with ours and their form of government with our democracy. I was sometimes bewildered to find that on the surface there aren't a lot of differences. Governments everywhere can tell you what to do. Every country has police and military. But eventually I realized that underneath we have an important difference. Our government has limits spelled out in our Constitution. China has no such guarantees. A journey like this doesn't necessarily teach you something tangible, but it can open up your mind to new ideas and new ways to look at old ideas. When these young men and women return home next week, that's the legacy they'll bring with them. Thank you for spending the hour with us. Good night.
We were sitting in the lobby, and they're getting ready to leave, and they told us they would send some tapes home. And so, hello, and everybody's doing okay, and everybody's getting along, and I'm fine. I'm a little homesick, so write me a whole lot of letters, even if you don't get them from me.
Hello, everybody. Everything here is really great. I'm having a super time. Couldn't be better. Food takes some getting used to, but I'm doing it, so I hope everybody's well. And write a lot.
Having a good time. Everyone, it's a neat group. It's a fun group. The food's okay. Got to get used to rice, but it's okay. Tell everyone hello. Make sure everyone, hears the message.
I miss everybody. I'll see you in 49 days.
Goodbye, Mom and Dad, and Stephen and Glenn, and who else is listening?
The kids, the people who have gone along with me from Tulsa have just been incredible. I'm really proud of the way they've represented us here. And please let that get to Nancy McDonald, too. I miss you a lot, and God, I'd give anything to have you here with me.
Please send more Kool-Aid and lots of chocolate. And what else can I tell you? Watch the news, watch Channel 2 in July. I'll come home skinny and pink.
Project China, the documentary, has been brought to you by Rainbow, your complete baker. Bakers of Rainbow bread,